Hi there, it's Tracy Kiernan from stepbysteppainting.net, and this acrylic painting tutorial is going to show you how to paint New Year's gnomes. So we have a set of 3 gnomes in a New Year's theme painting, and I'm going to go ahead and get started. So there is a traceable for this. If you want to download and use the traceable, you are welcome to do that. I'm going to show you how to draw the gnomes. I'm going to start with the noses, and the noses are in the exact center of the canvas. So find your center point of your horizontal canvas, and I'm going to use my hand kind of as a guideline for sizing here. The first gnome is about 5, or the first gnome's nose is about 5 fingers, so my hand width from the left edge of the canvas, and I'm going to draw a small oval. And then the next nose is 3 fingers. So I'm going to draw another oval the same size as the first one. And then the next one is 3 fingers. And then I have about 2.5 inches of space left on the right side. I'm going to go over these ovals so they're a little bit darker. And next I'm going to draw the hats. So the gnome in the middle has a pointed hat. I'm just going to take the top of that oval and draw the bottom part of his hat, so like a curved line. And then I'm going to sketch his hat to where it goes to a point. Erase that first line because I didn't get that angle the way I wanted it to. And I could always adjust this if I wanted the hat to be taller. As I painted in, I could make it taller. Then I drew little diagonal lines at the very top of his hat. Then I'm going to do the next hat, the one on the right. So this one's going to be different from the pointy one, but I'm going to start above the nose again. So the bottom part of the hat kind of hugs the top part of the nose. And it's going to be a wavy hat that points to the left. So I did a little point that curves down. So this is just kind of like a traditional gnome style hat. And then I'm going to do the same kind of hat on the gnome on the left, only the point is going to be pointing the opposite way. So I'm going to start on the top of the nose and do the bottom part of the hat so it kind of hugs the nose. Wavy lines on both sides, curve to a point, and then it goes down. Next, I'm going to draw the beards. So I'm just going to do texture kind of line that starts on the outer parts of the hats, and then it goes inwards towards the bottom to a point. So kind of the same thing for each of these gnomes. And if you want, you can draw a teardrop shape first like that, and then just leave it like that. And then when we paint it in, we can add the texture on the edges. The one on the right has a mustache. So I did kind of 2 organic sort of mustache shapes just under the nose. And then I'm going to lightly sketch his beard so it's behind our mustache. It's going to curve down and go to a point. And then I kind of extended his hat down a little bit further. And then I'm going to do the feet. So I'm going to measure about 2 finger widths from the bottom of the canvas, and I'm going to do 2 ovals. So that's about 1 inch from the bottom of the canvas. And I am to make the feet lined up, I grabbed my T-square ruler and just kind of lined it up to the side of the canvas. That way I could draw the ovals of my feet so that they're all lined up with that line. So I'm going to do 4 ovals, 4 more ovals, so a total of 6, 2 for each of the gnomes. And then the beard covers most of the robe. We do see a little bit of his robe or pants behind the beard and above the feet. So I'm just going to do 2 little curved lines from the top of his feet kind of up to the beard. And the drawing's getting very sketchy right now. So 2 curved lines. And his hand, so this guy on the right, I just did a basic little kind of curved shape for the hand, and he's going to be holding a sparkler. And the guy on the left, I did a curve with the thumb. And this one on the left is going to be holding balloons. So I did some lines kind of coming down, 2 diagonal lines going up, and then I'm going to sketch our balloon shape. So there's 2 balloons. One of the balloons will have polka dots and the other will have the 2022. I'm not going to draw those polka dots or the number just yet. I'm just doing the basic drawing for this painting. So as we start painting this in, we can kind of adjust, but for now we have a good grasp of our gnomes. And so this guy right here has, he's going to be holding a champagne glass. Even though I'm going to be painting over this, it's kind of nice to kind of draw it to envision what that's going to look like. So I did the champagne glass and the little 2 mitten hands holding that champagne glass. And then they're going to be standing on snow. And so we're just going to kind of estimate about 4 fingers from the bottom of the canvas and a wavy line going across. So I'm kind of making those beards go towards each other, but for now this is a good drawing. We're going to start painting our background in. So the background's going to be painted first, and the background is actually a combination of the Prussian Blue and Mars Black. And I'll be using both a 3/4 flat and a 4 round. So first thing I'm going to do is actually water down my blue and black, almost like a watercolor consistency, a little bit thicker than a watercolor consistency. So I'm going to use the thinness of this to kind of create a unique sort of background here. The direction of my strokes are really kind of just expressive, going in like different angled directions, and I'm allowing that Prussian blue to gently mix with our black to get like a varied color background. So it's a very thin layer of paint, and I'm going to paint all the negative space around our gnomes. So that means I got to go around all these curvy areas of my drawing, and I can use my number 4 round brush as needed to go in there in some of those smaller areas. But I'm just taking my time. Take your time when you're doing this, and just kind of go around the negative space. That's the space that's around our gnome drawings. So this is a number 4 round, so I'm just grabbing about equal amounts of the blue and the black, and we could grab different amounts each time to kind of make it look varied. So there's some spots that have more blue, spots that have more black. It just creates more of an interesting background than if we just did a solid color. So going around the negative space, kind of contouring strokes, so the strokes are just kind of going in the direction of the shape that's around our gnome. So these are kind of curving. So I'm just filling up all that canvas with that thin layer of paint. And then when we have larger open areas, we can kind of do more expressive strokes going in different angles. So we're going to go around this hat with that number 4 round. A little different angles and going around that hat. And use the tip of the brush right there to get that sharp line. So he's got that triangular hat and bigger open areas, more kind of angled expressive strokes. The video speeding up just slightly because this background takes quite a bit of time to do. Definitely take your time. So I'm using that round brush right here to go around that hat in that negative space around the gnome. And then fill it in with expressive strokes. So the alternative to this would have been to paint our background first and then draw the gnomes. But since it's a dark background, we would have had to draw the gnomes and then paint white over the gnomes and then paint. So we're kind of skipping the step of having to paint white over our background where the gnome shapes are. But you can certainly do it that way. So if you wanted to paint your background the dark blue and black first, then draw your gnomes with like a white graphite paper, or if you're using the traceable, you can use white graphite paper, but draw it with a white chalk pencil. And then when you paint your gnome in, you would have to paint the gnomes white first, let the white dry, and then do the color so that the color of the gnome would show up bright against that dark background. It would give enough coverage. So this step actually eliminates that need to white it out. But up to you, there's both ways work. We're going to go around these balloons. So the string of the balloons I just painted over. That can easily be painted again or redrawn again if needed, but I am going around the shape of those balloons. That big flat brush is used for the bigger areas. The small brush gets in, so I outline that shape first and then I kind of fill in the bigger areas. So again, the background is thin, so every once in a while I'll grab a little bit more water on my brush and just kind of distribute it into that paint. So you can see our water is kind of giving that background some more variation because it's making some of the areas look more thinner and lighter. That's just kind of the effect I was going for, just to be a little bit extra creative. Do something a little bit different. I tend to do a lot of the same kinds of backgrounds, so I get kind of bored and want to try to change things up a little bit. Experiment with different colors, different techniques. So I'm just going back in some of those lighter areas. I'm just going back in with like some more paint. And then I just want to go in and these smaller areas down here, we have the hand, and we could always go, when we start painting our gnome in, we can always redraw something or paint over our blue background. So if that hand, you accidentally painted over the hand, we can always paint over that blue. So that's the beauty of acrylics. Once dried, we can paint over it. This area is a little bit ambiguous because of the beard texture that's going to be painted. So I just kind of guessed where that dark part would be. Same with right here. So I know that dark part would be down here. There's a little bit of space between each of the gnomes. But again, some of the beard might be covering that up, but we haven't gotten to the beard yet. So I'm just painting that blue where I think that blue would be anyway, and leaving as much of that shape of the gnome as possible so that I can see the shape when it's time to paint the gnomes in. So right here, I'm going to go around that hand, kind of a bigger area. So I grabbed my 3/4 flat, going around that shape as much as possible. So I'm just kind of going in with the rest of that paint on my palette, just a few more textured strokes wherever maybe that's a little bit too thin and it needs like a second coat. Just going in there. I love this Prussian blue when it's slightly watered down. It's a really pretty color and it actually blends very nicely with that black, the Mars black. So with the leftover paint on my palette, I did the sides of the canvas. So same colors, whatever's left over, just taking that, extending it on the sides. I did not add that to the bottom of the canvas because that's where the snow is going to be. So it's white on the bottom side, not black and blue. So just filling that up. And we have the background part of our painting finished. I can go in and just a few little strokes here and there, different angles, filling in any white canvas that may still be showing through. Next, we are going to do the snow on the bottom of our painting. So I have titanium white, and I'm going to get this brush rinsed off, get all the Prussian blue and black off of our 3/4 flat. Dry it, and sometimes with the darker colors you need a good couple rinses. And I'm going to do the snow. So we're going to load our brush in the titanium white. We're not thinning this one down. This one's the regular thickness of the paint. And I'm going to paint the white. So it's just going to be the same color as the canvas for now, but we'll add some shadow color in the snow here in a little bit using that Prussian blue on our palette. So I'm just painting under the feet and around whatever the gnome is on the snow. So up here, curvy, and below the feet. So I'm painting all of that white, a nice layer of white. If some blue drags down into the snow, that is okay. We're going to be adding some Prussian blue and black, but whatever's left over on our palette, to the snow to give it some shadow. So it's okay. Go around the feet the best I can. If you just want to paint over the feet, you can. There's not a lot of drawing in that area, so you can paint over it if you want. Then grabbed the blue/black that was on my palette without rinsing the brush, just a little bit on the brush, and just gently on the bottom add that and just kind of gently blend it up. So again, a little bit of that blue/black from the palette on the bottom, add the little bit of color on the bottom, and then gently blend it up, doing kind of long wavy strokes in there as well. And then I'm going to go in and add some more white, kind of go up here at the top and redefine that. A little bit of blue was dragging into the top part, but that's okay. So it's not a flat line, it's just kind of a lumpy, uneven line. And just going in there with some more white. You just want to be careful. The more you blend, the more it'll just all turn into the same solid color. So you want to just kind of add the color, but try not to over blend it. And then whatever is left over on your palette, you can take that color and you can extend it on the sides of your canvas. Next, I'm going to do the noses of our gnome. So I used Unbleached Titanium. It's kind of a beige color. And then Cad Red Medium Hue. So the red is going to get that beige to be a little bit more of a rosy color. So this is my number 4 round. So I'm going to grab the beige color and a little bit of that red. So about 5 parts of the Unbleached Titanium to 1 part of the Cad Red Medium Hue. And if you want to add just a little bit more red, you can, but it turns it into kind of a more rosy color. And then I'm going to paint that in. So the nose, the 3 noses, I'm just going to paint those ovals with that color. And then oftentimes I'll go outside the lines of my drawings or not paint the entire shape depending on what's happening, just because that's kind of how I paint. The drawing is meant to be a guideline, not necessarily a coloring book, if that makes sense. So you can go outside of the lines if you feel like the nose should be a little bit bigger or smaller. And so those are the 3 noses painted in, and I'm going to do the hats next. So I'm going to get the number 4 round brush. By the way, I'm going to be using this number 4 round brush for the rest of the painting. I will grab a paint pen later on, but for now this is pretty much the brush that we'll be enjoying for the rest of the tutorial. And so the color I loaded on my palette was silver. If you don't have silver, or if you don't want to use metallic color, you can use black and white to make a gray color. I also loaded white on my palette, and that white is just in case I need to help with the coverage of the hat. So if I needed to go outside the lines of my drawing a bit, I can grab a little bit of white to help with the coverage. But the silver doesn't go, the silver goes over that dark blue a little bit. So if I go outside the lines, it's okay. Like I said earlier, I like to go outside the lines when I do drawing paintings. Just kind of helps it make it look a little bit less like a coloring book. So that little bit of white right there is also used to kind of vary that color of the silver. So it's not just a solid color, it could be lighter in some areas. So just gently mixing that white a little bit with that silver. And you can also change the colors of this if you wanted a red hat or a different kind of blue hat or whatever color you envision it to be. You don't have to copy the colors, or even gold if you wanted to. We'll be using gold in some other places of this painting, but if you wanted a gold hat, you can do a gold hat. And so I'm doing contouring strokes. That just means I'm going around the object. So I'm going around that nose, so my strokes are going curved in that direction. Go curved and down. In the bottom part of his hat. So curved strokes kind of in the middle. Silver is such a light, translucent color. There's not a lot we could do with like the white, because even if I add the white in there, it really doesn't do much to it. It does a little bit, I suppose. And then one of the balloons is going to be silver, so I'm actually just going to use the silver right now to paint the left balloon, going in the direction of the shape. So filling that in. I can go outside the lines if I need to adjust the size of that balloon. And then a little bit of white to vary that color. And then I can do the little triangle piece that's on the bottom of it. So using just the white right there on the tip, little triangle. If I had done that with silver, the silver would not have had enough coverage for it to show up. So if you really wanted that to be silver, you can wait for that white dry and then add the silver, but it's such a subtle difference between the silver and the white. It's not that noticeable that the end of the balloon is white and not silver. And then we're going to move on to the middle hat. So this one I used deep violet. I'm going to rinse my number 4 round brush off and dry and grab the deep violet. So this triangular hat is this pretty purple color. And again, contouring strokes. So right here, it's going in that direction of the nose. In the middle, the strokes are curved. And then on the ends, I'm doing straight strokes to define that shape. And with this purple, the white does provide some pretty color variation. So when I go to reload my brush, I'm grabbing little bits of white right there on the tip of the brush. That'll allow the purple to be light in some areas, and then when I go to reload with more purple, it'll be dark in other areas. So straight lines on the edges and curvy lines in the middle. Curvy lines in the middle, all up the hat. Next, we'll do the hat on the right, and for this one, I used a different blue, the Cerulean Blue. Again, feel free to change up these colors if needed, or use whatever blue you have on hand. So if you wanted to use like a light blue permanent, turquoise, so that's up to you. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use the white to allow that blue to vary in color. This blue especially needs white mixed into it to give enough contrast against our blue background. So if I didn't add the white, there wouldn't be a whole lot of contrast here. So lighten that blue up helps. I'm just taking that and doing the curvy sort of strokes, the contouring strokes that go around the shape. So remember, we have a mustache here. And the bottom part of the hat goes over the nose. Curvy strokes in the middle. And you don't have to blend your blue and white all the way unless you want to. I like the color variation of letting that blue and white gently mix on the canvas, but not all the way. Makes it look more interesting and not exactly a solid color. And then, so curvy strokes. And when we do those curvy strokes, it also gives that hat a little bit more depth. Instead of making it look flat, it kind of makes it look like it has form to it, kind of 3D-ish. So curvy strokes in the middle. And we have this guy's hat painted in. When this blue dries, I will be adding circles, polka dots to it, and the hat in the middle will have stripes. So next I will be demonstrating how to do the beard. So on the palette we need Mars Black and Titanium White, and we're going to mix the black and white together to make a light gray, but I'm not going to mix it all the way. I'm just going to kind of let it look swirly on the palette. And I'm going to do these strokes and these like sort of short, fast strokes to create the texture of the beard. So each of these strokes is going curved kind of downwards. So I'm stroking from the top and I'm stroking down. And to get the texture of the beard, we have different variations of this gray. So when I reload, I can grab white or gray or even a little bit of the black. You don't want to get too much black for this beard. This one's a lighter beard, so I want to keep it a lighter gray. And so I'm just stroking downwards to create that texture. I'm just going to keep stroking down, forming the shape of that beard. Quick curved strokes. And then, so each of the strokes, just curvy, diagonal strokes, stroking downwards. Going to reload, I grab different amounts of white and that gray, and I'm just going to form the shape of the beard. So don't worry about where the hands or the robe or the feet are going to be. And so our beard goes to a point as we approach the bottom. And then we can do a little bit of the texture kind of hanging out on the sides, going over the blue background a little bit. And then later on, we can go in and add some darker texture if needed. So I'm going to go on to our middle beard, and this guy's going to have slightly darker beard just to make him stand out from the guy next to him. So this time I'm doing the exact same technique, but I'm just adding a little bit extra black to my brush. Not too much black, just a little bit extra. It helps to outline that bottom part of the nose and then go back over that and do your textured strokes so you get that all filled in. And just the same technique, stroking downwards in curved direction to form the shape of the beard. That texture's created by the stroke, but also by applying different amounts of white and gray and black to the brush. Gently adding those light gray strokes. Forming the shape of his beard. And then you can do a few little textured strokes that cover slightly the background. And you can even have it overlapped the lighter beard from the guy on the left. So they're very close to each other. Their beards are touching each other. And so same with right here, it is touching the guy on the right's mustache. So it kind of goes over it a little bit. So just going in, textured strokes. Again, we can let this dry and go back over with some more darker or lighter strokes as needed. But that's basically the first layer of beard. Just going to add a few more here in the bottom and allow that beard to go to a point right there in the bottom. And then I'm going to take the leftover darker gray on my brush and just kind of apply a few strokes to the guy on the left. Okay, so then I'm going to repeat the same thing to this gnome, starting with his mustache. So same technique, only this is just going to create the shape of the mustache. I'm just going to do that light color to outline the shape. And so outline the shape and fill it in. Little short curvy strokes to create that texture, adding different amounts of gray, black, and white to my brush. So this guy is going to have a lighter color mustache and beard than the one on the left. But to make our mustache stand out, I'm going to add a little bit extra black in there to make that gray a little bit darker than the mustache, so the mustache stands out, but then it's going to quickly get lighter kind of towards the bottom. So it's still lighter than the beard left to it. So just different amounts of the white and the black and the gray, just textured strokes going in a curvy direction, kind of letting that color blend on the canvas, just stroking downwards. Create different amounts of the gray in there, adding some more white in there to lighten that up a little bit, but keeping in mind I want that mustache to be lighter so it stands out. Okay, next I am going to show you how to paint the robes or the pants. So whatever's showing through the bottom part of the beard. And I'm just going to do the same color as the hats. So this one with the blue, that lighter blue color. And so I'm just filling in that shape using contouring strokes. So kind of going in the direction of that shape and just filling it in. If you painted over that area with your dark blue, you can always get white and white out the area that you want to paint. Let the white dry and then go back over with the color. And then so this one is going to be that purple color. So just kind of a curvy stroke down here at the bottom, wherever his pants or robe would be kind of showing through on the sides of the beard. It may not even be a lot of space. If you did the beard larger and more fuller, maybe there's only a little bit showing through. And then the guy on the left is, instead of silver, I actually chose to do gold, just so that color kind of stands out better. The silver didn't have a lot of contrast, so just a pop of a different color over here in this area. So this is the gold, and the gold has pretty good coverage over the whiter area. If this was more of a dark color over here, I would recommend painting it white first and then going back over the gold. And then with the gold, I also painted the balloon up here. So the balloon on the right is gold. So I'm doing that with curved strokes, just filling in that shape of the balloon. And if you painted over the sky and need to do the balloon, again, I would recommend painting a white coat first and then waiting for the white to dry and then going back over the white with the gold so that your gold will have really good coverage and be nice and bright and opaque. A lot of metallic colors tend to be very translucent. They're pretty because of the shimmer, but they're not great at providing coverage. So that's why doing the white layer first is always a good idea. I grabbed a little bit of white and I'm just kind of doing a few little strokes of white on the balloon to give it some color variation, and then I'm also using that white to really define the shape of that balloon. It's going outside of the lines just a little bit over that darker blue background. Next, I am going to paint the designs on our gnomes' hats. So the hat in the middle has stripes. It's going to have gold stripes, and in order for that gold to show up, I'm going to have to do a white layer first. So I'm using titanium white to do little diagonal strokes, and since this is a rounded hat, I'm having my stripes go in kind of a rounded or a curved direction. I'm going to do 3 stripes, and they are slightly curved. If you wanted to do different designs, you can most certainly do different designs. So when this white dries, I will apply the gold layer over it. Then I will do the little fuzzy thing on the top of his hat. So a little bit of white right there in the tip of the brush, just doing very, very quick light strokes to create those thin lines, and I'm just dragging that white going in a circular direction to create that effect. And the same thing on the bottom of the hat. So I'm just taking the white and doing little X's, kind of just different angles as well. So it's not just X's, just little diagonal strokes kind of going all over different angles across the bottom of his hat to create that texture on the bottom. And I will apply other colors to this as well, just to get that to stand out a little bit better. So little angled strokes going in all different directions to create that fun texture. And I'm going to grab some gold and start doing some different colors in here. If you want, you can leave that white, but I wanted to add some more fun colors in here. So I'm taking that gold and I'm just going over that white. Same technique, the little angles going in a circular direction, dragging that brush from the middle outwards, and then I'm applying that gold to our bottom piece over here. So little angled strokes with that gold. That gold is mixing with that white a little bit, but that's okay. And this one over here on the right, I'm going to do little circles using the titanium white. And again, these circles are going to be gold. And I'm doing the white layer first. When the white dries, I will add the gold layer to it. So I'm just doing similar size circles all over, and circles that are on the side of his hat as well. So those are just like half circles. And then I'm going to freshen up some Mars Black on my palette and use the black to add to our texture of the hat in the middle. So give it some more contrast. So I'm going to rinse my 4-round off, grab the black, a little bit of black right there in the tip of the brush so that we can get the thinner strokes. And I'm going to just go ahead and add that black into that texture. So if this wasn't dry all the way, or it's semi-dry, but if it was like still super wet, I wouldn't be doing this because that black would just kind of mesh into all those other colors and make it messy. But this has dried for the most part. And so I'm just taking that black, and I'm not covering all of it, but that little extra black gives it some contrast. And then I'm going to go ahead and paint their shoes in. So these are all the same kind of oval shapes. I'm outlining the shape and filling it in. So if you have to go over your beard, that's okay. We can always paint our shoes and then go back and add more beard texture over the shoes if it needs to overlap our shoes a bit. So the shoes are all the same size, and there's a little bit of space between those two ovals. The middle part of the beard kind of goes between the shoes. If you wanted to do it differently, if you want the shoes to be both together, touching each other, you can do it that way. I just did it this way. And then with the black, I'm going to go in and kind of loosely outline some of these parts of the beard. So I did the bottom part of his mustache and just a few strokes in there. And then bottom part of the nose and just a few strokes. You don't want to do too many black strokes in there because then we're going to just kind of change the effect of the beard. Just a few here and there. On this one, it has a little bit more black strokes because he's got a darker beard. But then I went in and added more beard texture kind of to the sides where it might be overlapping our robe a bit. So right here, beard texture on the sides. Few more lighter strokes in there. Just a few strokes on the mustache, and we're going to move on to the hat on the left. So our party gnome on the left has black stars, and I'm going to do this with the round brush. This can also be done with that black POSCA paint pen, or if you have a black POSCA paint pen, or even a Sharpie, so you have more control over these stars. One trick that I have with painting really small, intricate details using this round brush is to slightly water down the paint so it's a little bit more flowy and thinner, so you have a little bit extra control over it, and just to make sure that paint is right there on that tip of the brush. So I'm only using the very tip of the bristles to paint these stars. So I'm just doing like the standard little triangle diagonal star technique when you draw a star, and then I'm filling that shape in. Again, using the paint pen might be helpful if you want extra control, or you don't have to do stars. You can do a different design if you wanted to do stripes or something else. The stars are kind of fun. And then I took that black and loosely outlined the bottom of that hat. It gives it a pop of contrast. And I grabbed a little bit of white in there just to let that blend in a little bit. Kind of loosely outlining the edges. You don't have to do this. I'm just kind of doing that to let it stand out a little bit better. And then I'm going to take this black and do the little circles on the balloon. So this balloon has black spots, polka dots. I'm just doing a few little black circles, kind of different sizes, and then on the side of the balloon. And then our other balloon says 2022, and I'm actually going to bring out the paint pen for this. So this is the black POSCA Paint Pen. POSCA is the brand of the pen. There's multiple brands of paint pens you can use. I like the POSCA, it's the best. And if you don't have this, you can use a Sharpie. I often use Sharpies for my paintings to do black details, and they work fine. So you can do that if you want. So I just wrote 2022. Oh, you can also use the round brush for 2022 as well. And then I went ahead and mixed the color for the hand. So same color as the nose. I just mixed the unbleached titanium with the red, and I'm going to paint the hands in. So this one got kind of weird over here with this hand because I didn't fully paint the background in the area, but I'll touch that up later. So this one, it's a mitten hand as well. So I did a curve and then a little thumb down. And the hand over here got kind of awkward too. You'll kind of see my process here with this hand. So I did the little circle and then just the little thumb facing down. And then I took that and just kind of went ahead and added a second coat to our noses here. And then I went ahead, rinsed, dried, and grabbed titanium white. So I'm going to do the strings of our balloon, and I did this with white, so it will show up. Black wouldn't really show up. So I did, these lines have to be straight, so I did a diagonal line and let it meet his hand. So a very loose line. You can see how the line even kind of jumps a bit, picks up a bit. So it's very loose, goes to the hand. And then the string over here could be wavy because the balloon's not pulling on that string piece. It's loose and wavy. So that doesn't really stand out right there because of the snow. So I can grab some black and change the contrast of that over here a little bit. So I did black, and then to kind of let that be even, I did a little bit of black over here, but I'm not covering the white, just a bit of black gives it that consistency, I guess. So there's our balloons, and I went in and grabbed some more of this beard. I wanted it to overlap a little bit more over here so those beards are touching, so there's not a lot of space between there. And then I did a highlight on each of the shoes. So with the white, did a little curvy line right there on the top of each of their shoes. I'm going to go in and kind of fix our hands here. I got a little bit picky with the way their hands look. So instead of mitten, so this is the Prussian Blue. I just did the background color again, so I can go back over what I painted with that beige color. Instead of the mitten hand. So I tried to fix our mitten hand, which looks okay, but then I decided to just do away with the thumb, so we just have the curvy, kind of simplified hand, because he's going to be holding the firecracker, not firecracker, sparkler. He's going to be holding the sparkler, so he would be making a fist. And then same with this guy as well. I just kind of went ahead and made it a simple curve, half circle shape without the thumb. For now, I might go in and add the thumb in there, but I just kind of went over that and then go in and back over this. You could also use your background color to go and make touch-ups around your gnome. So if your background isn't covering a certain area where it should, you can go back in and kind of fill that up if needed. And then I used Prussian Blue to do the shadow in the snow. Prussian Blue and a little bit of white, so it's not too dark, and watered down to a watercolored consistency. And I'm doing little horizontal strokes under each of the shoes. So this should be very, very thin. It should not be a thick layer of paint at all. It shouldn't be very dark. The thinness helps make that paint look light enough, but just enough to tint the area under the snow. Again, very watered down, and little horizontal strokes under each of the shoes. It can be a little bit darker closer to the shoes, but it gets very light as it goes down to the bottom of the canvas. So that gives our gnomes some shadow. And then I finished the outline thing under each of their noses. So instead of outlining the whole oval, I just did a little curve outline under the noses, and then did just loosely outlined the bottom part of his hat right there. When you outline, you don't want to outline everything in your painting unless it's the style you're going for. I tend to just pick a few shapes to loosely outline, and that just gives it enough to let the object kind of pop a little bit, give it some contrast, especially if colors look the same when they're next to each other. Outlining an object loosely helps get something to stand out a little bit better. So next, this little gnome in the middle, he's holding like a champagne glass. Could be champagne or apple cider, sparkling cider. I'm going to use the white to kind of draw this glass first before I do the hands. So it's a cat eye shape at the top, two curved lines that are going down, a vertical line, and a little half circle for the bottom part of the glass. I was going to mention that you can skip this part if you want to simplify this painting. You don't have to do this part. A little bit extra challenge to have him hold a champagne glass. The inside of the glass I did gold, so the liquid part of that. And then I used black to kind of loosely outline that. It's a challenge because our beard is the same color of this black and white, so adding that black actually made it blend in a little bit more. I probably would have just kept it white and not added the black, so you can see what happened. We just kind of lost our shape a little bit by adding the black. So maybe if you were doing this, if your beard was too darker gray, like mine, just use the white to let that have enough contrast. And then we're going to have his hands hold this here, but I'm going to let that champagne glass dry before I attempt the hands. But I did use the white to go ahead and add some dots of snow all over the sky. And there's also fireworks in this painting. So just a few little dots of snow, not too much because we want to leave room for fireworks. So when we do fireworks, when I do fireworks, I take the white and I drag each stroke starting in the center, and I do little curved strokes kind of going outwards to create the fireworks so it kind of curves. So when you do the strokes, it starts out kind of bright at first, but then you release the pressure and the paint kind of runs dry and kind of wisps away. So you do the stroke is brighter in the middle, kind of thicker in the middle, and then you release the pressure really quickly and it lets that kind of fade away. That one grabbed a little bit of blue, so it's fine. A little bit of blue that wasn't dry over there in that area. And then over here, so you can put fireworks wherever you want. You can do as many or as little as you want. This one's kind of up higher in the sky on the edge. So wherever you think a firework should show up. And I will add color over these fireworks. This is just to make sure it's nice and bright. Because if I did the color first, it would not be bright. It would just be kind of dull and wouldn't have a lot of coverage. So this is Cad Yellow Light. And I'm going to use my brush. You don't have to use Cad Yellow Light. I just happened to grab this particular yellow. You can use any yellow that you have, or you can choose whatever color you want your fireworks to be. So same thing, I'm going over that white, and because the layer was white first, it is allowing my yellow to be very bright in the sky. And then we'll do another yellow firework over here. And then we'll utilize the red. So I'm going to rinse my brush off and grab the red. And do this particular firework up here. And then this one over here is red. So notice I'm not covering all of the white. There's white still showing through in some areas. So that's kind of done on purpose. And then next I'm going to go ahead and do the hands for the middle gnome that's holding the glass of champagne. So I mixed that color again, that little bit of red, into the beige color, and I'm going to do like a little oval shape for each of the hands. And it's not going to be covering the glass, they're just under the cup area next to the stem of the glass. So a little oval, and then a little tiny oval for the thumb, and then do the same thing over here, and little oval, little tiny oval for the thumb on it as well. Made them a little bit bigger, so thumb and the thumb. So I just did like one little stroke for the thumb. So that looks like it's all blending in, and we could fix that a little bit after this dries with the paint pen. So the paint pen can be used for some outlining purposes. And so I also did this over here. So he's holding the sparkler. So I did the stick thing, and the actual sparklers is the same technique as the firework, only it's smaller. And then this angle right here, this line, I had it angled a little bit more inward, so it overlapped the beard a little bit, but you can have yours angled a different way if you want it holding straight up, or however you have room in that area of your painting. Then I grabbed that cad yellow light color and I went over the white sparkler lines with that yellow. And then I added little angled lines on the ends of some of this. There's not a lot of space here to work with, but wanted to make it look at least like somewhat like a sparkler. And then I'm going to kind of adjust this line here. So I'm going to actually blend this in with the beard because I don't like how that line looks. So I'm just going back in here, and I'll do the line with a black, either the black paint pen or the black paint, just because there's not a lot of contrast in that area. If I did it with the white, it's too light. It blends in too much with the beard. I could do like a red line, or if you want to, you can do a red line or a different color line to help give it some contrast. But the white line did not work for that. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of making this beard a little bit whiter, extending out the textures a little bit further, which kind of covers that hand a little bit, but that's okay. I'm just extending that a bit. And then another detail I did with the fireworks was in the middle, I added another layer of white, but just a smaller little starburst right in the middle. And that brightens up your fireworks even more. It makes that center part of your firework extra bright. And I did some highlighting as well. So with the white, I did a kind of a comma stroke on the left side of the balloons to give it highlight. I did it on the silver hat as well, although white doesn't provide a ton of contrast with silver because it's very, very similar in brightness level. And then I did gold for our stripes that are now dry. So I loaded gold onto my palette, and I'm just painting over those white lines with the gold, and I will paint over the yellow circles with the gold as well a lot of little intricate details in this painting. Things that you can simplify. You don't have to go into as much detail. And then I'm going to do the circles as well with the gold. I am going to get my paint pen now, and I mentioned I was going to do this with the black line. I'm going to try it with the paint pen because I can get in there and do the angle that I want. So that shows up a lot better against that white than that black did. And then I'm going to loosely outline the hands, so those kind of popped a little bit better. And I'm going to do that to some other areas where I think may need a bit of black outline. So go in here, maybe a little bit more black. And then I'm going to go in with some white and kind of brighten up our sparkler over here on the right. A little bit of highlight on the stick. And then I did some white kind of in the center to brighten that up a little bit. And then we can do like little dots. Make it look like little pieces of sparks are flying down. And then a few more beard textures. Keep adding beard textures to these guys. Little pop of white over here. Have it overlap the middle guy a little bit. Highlight on the nose, so just on the top part. And wherever else you feel like needs a fun little highlight. The hats are fun to highlight. This one over here, I did a really quick diagonal line. You can see what that did. It kind of made a fun, gave it some depth and 3D look. So just a quick diagonal line, and then a few little white marks on the beards. And then I did maybe a little bit of white on that, but the white doesn't show up on the silver that well. A little bit of white on the blue hat, a little bit of highlight on the hand. So wherever you feel like needs a little curvy highlight line. And then back to the paint pen again, I went in and did little black lines on our sparkler. And then I made the handle just a little bit thicker. Get that to stand out. So lots of little details and touch-ups. Our painting is just about to its conclusion. One little thing you can do is go in there and add little fine black lines to the beard. It just adds more texture in there. I wouldn't suggest going crazy, but just a few fine lines in there adds to more of that variation of color and texture in the gnomes' beards. So that's the final thing that I am doing here. Line our little champagne glass a little bit, and our painting is coming to its conclusion. I'm going to sign my name with the black POSCA Paint Pen, and that is it, my friends. I hope that you enjoyed painting these New Year 2022 gnomes, and thanks for watching. Thanks for painting with me.